Hi everyone, welcome to All Things Airgun. Today we're going to address my testing protocol by more specifically addressing how hollow point projectiles actually work. I've noticed that there is a fair bit of mysticism and incorrect information going around about how these things actually work and why they expand. So I would hope to shed a little bit of light on this by simplifying greatly the physics involved in this collision, because that's what it is. It's a collision. But it's not quite so simple as that. There's a lot going on here. I study physics in college. I'm a physics and astronomy major. I'm not a physicist yet, but I am very familiar with the basic fundamental laws of physics. And I don't want you to believe anything I say in this video. I want you to check. I want you to look into it for yourself and make sure I'm right and that what you believe is correct, because the laws of physics are not always intuitive or self-evident. That's very important. That's an important concept to grasp. The universe generally doesn't work the way it seems. It's actually different than what our everyday experience would have us believe. And whether or not that's unsettling or any other consequence of it, it's the truth. So, that being said, let's address the gorilla in the room. And I don't mean my ugly face. I am shooting airgun pellets into water to see if they expand. That's the pellet testing I'm doing. That's more or less what I'm doing. I'm testing this for me so that I know how these pellets will perform, generally speaking, before ever using them in a hunting or a pesting situation. So, being that jugs of water don't generally get into my bird feeder, and I generally don't hunt jugs of water wild in the woods, I would find shooting directly into a jug of water a substandard facsimile of what I would actually be doing in the field. So, I am putting a barrier between the pellet and the water that I consider a reasonable barrier. Sorry about the airplanes. I live near, well, at least in the path of Pittsburgh's International Airport. But that'll probably happen a few times. But anyway, I'm putting a barrier that I consider to be reasonable between the pellet and the water, because that is what in real life the pellet is going to experience. If I shoot an animal in a body shot situation, then the pellet must penetrate either fur and skin or feathers and skin, but it's going to have to penetrate a combination of those things before it ever gets inside the animal to do what it does. And that's a fact. Now, I also take headshots. So the pellet is going to have to penetrate either skin and fur or skin and feather, and then skull, hard skull, before it gets inside. That is the only variable I have questioned in my pellet testing. And I think I'm at the point where I can't really do much better. I'm using mink skin, which is fur and skin, albeit dried, from a small furry animal in between the size of a rat and raccoon. And this skin, if you hold this in your hand, you can just pull it apart. There's not much resistance in this skin, but I would argue it's not a good facsimile of real skin, because real skin is very elastic. This is not. This is not elastic to the same degree as living skin. It's easier to penetrate than living skin. But the fur I consider the real important part, to tell you the truth. But anyway, and with the skull shot, it's the same thing, only the plastic bottle cap. Oh, I'm sorry. For the soft target body test, it's the mink skin, and then sealing the 2-liter bottle of water is a vinyl rubber glove. Not even latex rubber, which is very flexible. Vinyl, you can just tear it. But it's to seal the water in the bottle is the only reason that it's there, without the use of the hard bottle cap. So I have mink skin, and then I have vinyl rubber glove, and then water. And the pellet has to go through the mink skin, through the rubber glove, and into the water. Once it is in the water, it has an absolutely ideal opportunity to expand. Let me restate that. When the pellet gets into the water, it has an absolutely ideal chance of expanding. Why? Because of how hollow point projectiles actually work. That's something I've seen a lot of explanations that are incorrect. This actually was prompted from a conversation with a friend, Union RDR. He has an airgun channel on YouTube. It's an awesome channel. I highly suggest you check him out. We were having this discussion as friends about my testing medium, and he was of the opinion that ballistics gel was the ideal medium for hollow point projectile expansion, and that's not true. That is not true. It's close. It's 80 to 90% true. And that's because ballistics gelatin is 80 to 90% water. Ballistics gelatin is not a solid. It is a colloid. It is protein that is mixed up into water, and then it forms this little, I don't want to get very nerdy on you, but it basically just sticks together and suspends itself in the water. Now, at, say, 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 200 degrees Fahrenheit, this is a liquid. This is an absolute liquid with a very low viscosity. It's not until you put it in the refrigerator and get it to like 30, 40 degrees Fahrenheit that it actually solidifies. But that's not really what it does. It is still a liquid, but the viscosity at that temperature is so high that it will sit there like a perfect shape, like you made in the refrigerator in your mold. And up to a certain temperature, it will sit there like that. But it is still not a solid. It has... All right, I'm sorry. I want to simplify this. I don't want to overcomplicate it. But anyway, the ideal substance to make a hollow point projectile expand at the velocities we're talking about. Now, if you took one of these pellets and shot it at, say, 1/10 the speed of light, something completely different will happen. Because at that velocity, the energies are so much different than our everyday experience that what you think is going to happen isn't what's going to happen. But anyway, at the velocities we're talking about in the pellet gun world, even in the firearms world, the velocities that we're reaching here are intermediate at best. And the energy regime in which we're operating is intermediate at best. But water is incompressible. It is an incompressible fluid. Okay? That means you can't squish it. It is already as small and compacted as it can ever be. Okay? That's a fact. Look that up. But anyway, with my targets, the pellet goes through the mink. It goes through the rubber glove, and it gets into the water. Now, as soon as the pellet gets into the water, actually, let's forget the mink hide and the rubber glove, just to simplify this, because we want to simplify this. We have a brand new fresh pellet that has never hit anything, with the perfect hollow point shape and everything. And there's no barrier. There's no barrier. It just hits water, okay? As soon as the hollow point cavity fills with water, you cannot fit any more water in there. Okay, that's a key point here. Once the hollow point cavity is full of water, you can't fit any more, not one more water molecule in that space. Now, that doesn't mean there's no more energy left to transfer. That hollow point fills far before the projectile is out of its own kinetic energy. Therefore, as the pellet continues forward, the pressure inside this hollow point that is full of water has no choice but to increase drastically. Okay? So we have a hollow point that's full of this thing you can't squash. And then you push. You're still pushing on it, right? And you can't move the water, but what's going to move? Something's got to give here. And what is it? It's the pellet. It's the lead. You have defeated, at some point, the inherent strength of this projectile. Its properties of... I'm sorry, I don't want to overcomplicate it. But anyway, the pressure, the force pushing in this hollow point cavity is more than the projectile can stand and stay intact. And manufacturers know this. This is the whole idea. It is weakened on purpose with notches and things in some cases to allow this material, the lead of the pellet, to plasticize, to move, to flow, to move and change and deform from this pressure. It's essentially hydraulic pressure. It's hydraulics that expand your hollow point projectiles. That is what is happening here. The density of the water is nearly irrelevant. It's coincidental. But the act of forcing water into this hollow point cavity means that at some point you can't fit any more in there. But you can still put more pressure. You can still put more pressure. And the universe doesn't like differences in pressure. It wants everything equal. So the universe says, something's got to give here. And what gives is the pellet. The pellet can't stand the force. And it moves. It expands the way it's designed to, hopefully. And this is what expands your hollow point projectiles. Now, like I said, water is incompressible, so it's ideal to do this. There's no loss of energy. I don't want to get into thermodynamics and everything, but just for our points, our illustration here, let's just say there's no loss of energy. All of the force you push on the water with pushes out on the pellet, all of it. Whereas, if you shoot a pellet into ballistics gelatin, this process is retarded by a minimum of 10%. If you have 10% ballistics gel, you have 90% water and 10% powdered collagen protein mix, which is what this ballistics gelatin is. If you have 20% ballistics gelatin, it's 80% water and 20% this powdered stuff. So you have retarded the effects by that amount in this hollow point cavity. Instead of 100% of the force being transmitted to the pellet, 90% is in 10% gel and 80% is in 20% gel. So no, I'm sorry, ballistics gelatin is not the ideal medium for hollow point projectile expansion. Water is. Now, I hope that was simple, and I hope you don't believe me. I hope you check. But anyway, and please, in the comments below, all challengers are accepted. But anyway, I'm going to illustrate this. I'm not just going to talk. That's not how physics and science work. We test things. We experiment. Now, I've already tested some pellets. And let me see here. Actually, coincidentally, right here is the H&N Terminator pellet that was shot into my soft target simulation at the time, which was buffalo leather over top of my rubber glove, over top the water of the 2-liter bottle. This projectile clogged completely with leather. Actually made a perfectly round plug of it. And this did not expand whatsoever. And my assertion was at the time, and still is now, that this did not expand because it was plugged with leather, not because it was shot into water, which some have said is a substandard medium for making hollow point projectiles expand. Incorrectly. It is the most ideal substance to use to make hollow point projectiles expand, and I'm going to prove it. This didn't expand, right? Shot into the soft target with leather. I say the leather is why it didn't expand. Someone else says it's because I didn't use ballistics gelatin. I say no. I just gave you my explanation as to why that is incorrect. And now we're going to test it. I'm sorry this took so long, but I feel pretty good in my explanation. I hope it was simple enough. I tend to get long-winded. I don't want to bring math or equations into this, but hopefully that is useful information to you. Now let's test this. Okay guys, this is obviously going to be just water. I'm going to shoot the pellet into just water through a little vinyl glove, which is no resistance. Okay guys, okay, that was astounding. I mean, did you see that bottle explode? Oh my word, that shot water. I mean, that was incredible. Wait till you see the bottle. But I'm sorry, a lot of time has passed, and I'm in my basement now, so forgive me. But let's have a look here. Okay, this is our bottle. Every bottle that I've shot has split at the mouth. This one exploded in every direction. Do you see that? Do you see that? These Hornets put out about 25 foot-pounds out of this Octane Elite. And boy, this bottle took every foot-pound of it. And anyway, let's have a look at our projectile. Oh crap, I meant to get my calipers. But you will see very differently than what happened with the barrier. This pellet has expanded magnificently. as designed. That's not deformation from impact. That is expansion from hydraulic pressure. And the water is what made that happen. Let me move this, see if I can get some good pictures for you, or video anyway. Background here. Trying to help the focus with this blue background. But it doesn't seem to be working. Come on, you. Oh, see? Look at that pellet. That is beautiful expansion. As designed. And I'll get still pictures of this for you. Now, I don't want you to get the wrong idea. Will pellets expand in gelatin? Yeah, sure they will. And they'll expand in tissue and other things. But it's not ideal. The water is ideal because it's incompressible. It's too ideal. This isn't a good simulation of what happens in an animal. This is too ideal. But that's what I'm doing here. I just want to see if they will expand at all after they penetrate my barriers. This one did not expand when it penetrated buffalo leather. Carried it into the water with it. But I'm going to retest this Terminator with the mink hide because honestly, I've used these to shoot rats. And I'll tell you right now, on a rat, it's a complete pass-through no matter where you hit it. But even with a underpowered Umarex throttle. But that's 13 foot-pounds. But anyway, the entry hole looks like a perfectly punched quarter-inch, hole. It looks, it's not a penetrative wound, it's a punch. It looks like a core was taken from the rat. And then out of the back of the rat is a half-inch hole. So, like I said before, whether or not these expand, it's going to put a world of hurt on something. I love these pellets. But are they going to expand when they go through fur and stuff? I don't know. I honestly never recovered one of the pellets after I shot it through a rat. It just, went through. I don't know where the hell it went. Well, I do know where it went, into the ground, but I didn't dig for them. But anyway, now we're going to try something different. One more medium. And see what happens to the pellet. And yes, this part is a little tongue-in-cheek. All right. No, I know what you're thinking. No, I don't actually. But what you're looking at is the other ingredient of ballistics gelatin, besides water. This is protein. Now, granted, it's whey protein, but it is 100% protein in this bottle, and it is a solid. This is powder. This is an absolute solid. But it's not collagen-based gelatin. But honestly, there is not very much difference. This is protein. This is solid. This is within, margin of error, the other ingredient to ballistics gelatin. And I'm going to shoot it. I'm going to see if it expands. The hollow point. Wow, it's ridiculous when you say it out loud. In my head, I was like, yeah, this will be funny and, illustrate the point a little bit. Now it's just funny. I don't know what it's going to illustrate, but we're going to do it anyway. And here's what I've come up with. I poked a little hole in the cap. See? You can get right to the protein through this hole. So I'm going to shoot it through this hole. Now, I have no idea what's going to happen here. This is science at its most intimate level. This is the unknown. We're delving into unknown territory here. But what the hell? Let's shoot this ball of protein and see what happens. Well, that was a little bit lackluster. It just like a little bit fell out. That was all. But I hadn't yet considered how I'm going to get this pellet out of this protein. So let me handle my business, and we'll get back to this. Okay, this is what I've come up with. I've got a flour sifter here. Right? And this is the bottle I shot into. This was the other bottle I had. But anyway, listen. God damn it, I heard it a second ago. Hear it? Pellet rattling around in there. So I figured I'd bring you along for the big reveal. There's still some powder in here, but I can hear the pellet. Where the hell is it? Here it is. Here it is. Huh. How about that? It did not expand. Not one bit. It did, however, completely fill itself with protein, which did not have the effect of deforming the face of the pellet the way it was designed. And I expected that. This was kind of just for fun, but also to illustrate the point. The water made it expand. The protein did not, and it's a solid. But this is all in good fun, but the point of the video is dead serious. Where's my here's the expanded one. There's the difference. Now I'll get some good pictures for you. Thanks for watching.
Just